everyone, Terry here, your forever faithful host, talking about everything to do with hair. And today we have a very special guest, our infamous Rick Douglas. Yay! Here to answer some really good questions. Rick, how you been?
I've been good.
How has your trip been to Canada so far?
I have had the best time. It's been a lot of things. I've learned a lot. I've had a lot of fun. I think the most impressive thing was meeting the whole staff here. I mean, it's
They're a pretty good team.
I am not kidding. Yes, very, very impressive.
Good.
Good at their job, but very kind.
All right, so we're going to get into some questions here. Let's start off with something fairly easy. Tell us at what age you first started to notice your hair loss.
Well, so I was fortunate in that I probably made it all the way to about 40.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, before I started noticing any hair loss. And what I had done, I'd gotten a really short haircut, like a flat top, actually. And then I thought, why does that hair look so thin back there in the crown? And then I thought, well, it's just because it's so short. Well, then when it grew back, it was the first time I noticed it is thin. And then I wasn't losing it so much here, but it was kind of really thinning out back here. So that was the first time I noticed. But then it wasn't until I was about 50 that I realized I am going to be the first bald male in my family.
Oh, wow.
Any direction.
Wow. So that goes into my second question. There's no genetics of hair loss anywhere?
None.
Now, do you feel this was maybe caused by medical conditions, stress, anything else that you think may have been attributed to the hair loss, or?
Well, so I'm not a doctor, of course, but I would tell you I can't think of something so stressful that would cause my hair to fall out. But being a hairdresser, I know what male pattern baldness looks like. And it was just plain and simple that.
Yeah.
And so I said, nowhere in the family, but after doing a bit of research, I find that my grandfather's had a brother who was hairless.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So, that gene's always rumbling around in there, and I just happened to draw it. Lucky me.
Oh, lucky. Yeah. Anybody else in your family, any brothers or anything that have hair loss? No?
Well, I'm an only child.
Oh, okay.
Which explains a lot.
That does, yeah.
But I have cousins on both sides. There's not another bald-headed man anywhere.
What was your first thought when you started to notice the hair loss, and what kind of effect did it have on your mental health, if anything?
Yeah, well, so my hope was that it would just get thin and that would be all. A little bit thinner in the back, because surely I'm not going to lose my hair. I mean, it was just not in my wheelhouse at all, my thought process at all. So I thought, okay, it's a little bit thinner back there, but it's going to be okay. Yeah. And then it very, very slowly, again, fortunately, very slowly thinned out until it got to the point to where it was screamingly obvious. Now, the last to go was this right here. It wasn't like I got this, it started receding, because it didn't. It just got thin here, and it just started spreading out all in the top thin. But for about 4 years, I guess, I did this super cool, I'm kidding, little, sprinkle on fibers.
Yeah.
And I could pull that off for a while, as long as I didn't sweat.
Did you try any product serums? Was there anything that you tried? I know you said fibers, but was there anything other, like special serums you tried? Did you try anything being in the hair industry, any other products that, you thought might help to rejuvenate your hair? Anything
No,
else?
because I knew none of them worked.
Okay.
I think maybe there could be something now that supposedly helps to stop it, maybe with lots of medical side effects to the physical body. I didn't try to deny that it was happening, but I knew what my choices are, which were to embrace it, which for 2 or 3 years I did, and shaved my head completely. Total chrome dome. Had nothing.
So what did your family think about the hair system, or thoughts when you first had it installed? What were their initial expectations or thoughts?
Well, when I first mentioned that I was going to do it, they all had a fit. My oldest daughter, Dad, please don't do that. My wife, you could spot a rug a mile away, because all they had to judge it by was previous paradigms of experience and what they'd seen, whatever. And so I said, I'm just going to do it for fun. Yeah. And quite honestly, when I ordered that first system, it was really more for a joke. I thought, oh, this is going to be funny. I'm going to make everybody laugh. That seems to be my calling in life, to try to make you laugh. I'm going to do this. It's going to be hysterical. I'm going to go into the shop where, we have clients. It's going to be funny. It's going to look terrible, but it's going to be funny. So I order it, and it comes in the mail, and And I don't, oh boy, I don't know what I'm doing. But, you know, I've said before, somehow miraculously it went on perfectly that first time and looked incredible. I'm going, holy smoke.
So the joke was essentially on you.
The joke was most definitely on me. And I went into the shop and my family saw it, meaning my wife and my daughter.
Yeah.
And said, you know what, Dad, I really was looking forward to making fun of that, but I just can't. And they kept looking at it, and then clients were looking at it. And it was, I mean, there's no way you could tell that it wasn't really my hair. The second time I installed it was a dang nightmare.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah. I got hair under it in the glue. I got it on crooked. I couldn't get the front hairline to look right. I worked for about 2 hours and had to take it all back off, start over again. So it was just beginner's luck the first time, you know, and that's what started me on the journey to figure out what to do and what not to do.
That's good. Well, I think if you would have had a hard time with it the very first time, you probably would have given up and not. I promise you I wouldn't have. Yeah, not done it again. So it was almost like a blessing in disguise. It came on, went on, meant to be. So since getting a hair system, how has your hair loss journey changed?
It has changed in the fact that I don't give a hoot about my hair loss. It's, you know, it continued to thin out. I didn't care. I had a solution. Yep. So at the very first, the hair system that I put on was only about this wide. It just went from about here to here. And so because I continued to bald, you know, and lose hair, that bald spot continued to widen and widen and widen until it got down to where it's now settled down, thankfully, of where it's going to be. But I didn't even give it a second thought because I knew I was going to wear hair, if you will, so I didn't care if it was a small section or a big section. It looked great. It made me happy. It wasn't any trouble, and I loved looking at it, and I loved, you know, I had fun doing it, honestly. You know, with my profession, I guess. I just had fun doing it. So after I discovered the solution, then I stopped worrying about losing my hair.
That's good. So it obviously just kind of changed the whole perspective on hair loss, right? You don't have to worry about it as much, or what am I going to do?
It's no longer a threat, really.
Yeah. Well, that's good. That's good.
Lose my hair, it was just going to come from a different source.
That's it. Still yours. You paid for it. Exactly. So then obviously you feel that wearing a hair system has essentially changed your confidence then, I would say.
It made me feel better.
Okay. That's good.
Yeah, just made me feel better. I enjoyed, because I never thought I'd see the day that I would be outside and the wind's blowing and I'd feel hair blowing on the top of my head. And I would often think, you know, it'd be nice just to have hair, you know, and I'd see those, you know, those great disconnected haircuts that I was doing and the front was longer and the guys are, you know, running their fingers through their hair. And I'm like, that would be nice to have that hair while mine's shining all over the place. And so to actually have hair and all of a sudden realize I'm outside, I'm in the wind, I feel my hair blowing. This is a good day.
Yeah, exactly. We take it for granted as individuals. Oh man, my hair's blowing in the wind. No, don't ever complain about your hair blowing in the wind. How has people's reactions been to you when you've told them you're wearing a system?
Astonished.
Okay.
Just disbelief. I've really, you know, I've said, you know what, I'm not going to get into an argument with you. You don't want to believe me. You can't believe me, but I'm telling you, I'm bald. So because I totally don't care, I mean, I'm here discussing it with you, right? Yeah. And there's a before and after picture on Super Hairpieces, and I look like I came back from the dead or something because I tried to look as horrible as I could because I wanted to win the stupid contest, right? But it's horrible, and I showed that to people, and people have said, okay, I see you here in this picture, but who's this other guy? They don't even believe that's me because the change is so dramatic and so drastic. And so many times I've pulled out the picture. I said, okay, if you don't believe it, look at this. And they're going, oh. I mean, they're astounded. And like we were at a restaurant last night and the waiter stops by and says something, what do we do? And I mentioned Super Hairpieces and introduced you and he said, I've got a brother that's bald. I said, okay, this is a hair system. He said, and I invited him to take a picture of me, and he took like 3, I believe, didn't he? 3. And they can never believe it, particularly when they look right here, you know, right at that front hairline. What it looks exactly like it's growing right out of your head.
It really does. I mean, honestly, I've just met you obviously in person for the first time this week. I would show a lot of people your pictures and during consults and whatnot. And the interesting thing is that like, yeah, look at this great hairline. I said, we haven't altered these pictures. So when I saw you in person, I'm like, wow, it really is that good.
It really does look that good.
It really is that good. So it's nice to know. Do you feel you are more vocal about wearing a hair system? Or I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this, but more vocal about wearing a hair system? Or do you feel you like to hide it more? Like, I guess my more of a question is, do you feel like if someone's not saying anything to you and they're talking about hair loss, would you just quickly mention your hair? Or do you wait till someone asks you? Like, do you feel you'd be more vocal about it?
I am probably as vocal about it as one could get.
Yeah.
Honestly, you probably know that. But simply because there's so many people that judge hair systems from the past experiences of hair systems, and we know how they look. Mm-hmm. And I say this to people a lot. I said, you know what? You know the reason you have a bad taste in your mouth about hair systems is because the only hair systems you notice are the bad ones. Yeah, exactly. Because the good ones, you don't think of them a hair system. The guy just has nice hair. Yeah. And so I'm vocal about it because, I see people who don't understand they could get help for their hair loss. And so I want them to know. So I offer it very easily and quickly. I mean, I don't care.
Well, we appreciate that. We really do. How much time and trouble does it take wearing a hair system?
So to be fair, like I mentioned, the very first time it went on perfect, the second time it didn't. Yeah. And so let's employ the learning curve that is present with that. It's like anything else. Practice makes perfect. Mm-hmm. And right at first, you've not had any practice. So it may not be perfect every time, or you may run into some problems. I just had comments on the YouTube channel from a guy that was distressed. He said, I got the HD111 system just like you do. I got everything you got that you have mentioned as far as supplies are concerned, like you do. And he said, I'm frustrated because he was having problems. He said, I've installed it 3 times. And you've installed it 3 times and you're frustrated. And so I talked to him. I said, look, practice makes perfect. Don't give it up. When you go to do it, take a deep breath and relax. Just chill and take it easy and just go through the steps and it'll be okay. And so it's been a couple of weeks since then and I haven't heard from him since. But I encouraged him to tell him it's only normal. Then, okay, by the same token, I had another guy that had bought a hair system from you. He had seen me on the channel and saw where I was local to him. And he got real excited, and so he got a hold of me. And so he came, and I did a cut-in on him, and it's the one that I showed you the picture of earlier. And the only error that he had made is he'd got it set a little too far back on his head, but the second time, it was perfect, and he never had a problem at all. Yeah. And it's because he said, I have to say, can I pat myself on the back? He said, Rick, I bet I've watched every one of your videos 5 times.
So that's good, that's good.
Yeah. He said, so I did exactly what you said, and he said it went just as smooth as could be. So that's possible too, I guess. Yeah. But I didn't know what I was doing, so there was a bit of a learning curve.
I always like to tell people, I teach other hairstylists how to do this, even when we're training some of our own hairstylists. I always say it takes about 3 months before they have it to the degree where I would say they're like spot on, yeah. Great. And I mean, I'm not saying that you can't do it yourself, believe me, but again, practice does make perfect. It does take some time, So obviously you have some gray in your hair system. Synthetic gray or natural grays in that one?
I've had both, and I prefer synthetic.
Okay, why is that?
Well, it seems like an opposing thought to what should be, because the natural, should be better, but it behaves better for me in that. But I've only had, to be fair, I've only had one natural gray system. Okay. And so, and all of the systems, again, to be fair, from one system to the next, they're all going to vary. They're all going to be a little different because they're handmade, right? Yep. And so generally I will get a new one and I will cut it and I'll say, well, let's see what this one's going to do. You know, and I'll comb it and see kind of how it wants to naturally lay, because it will naturally want to lay. But I've also found that however I blow it dry that first time, it's what it wants to do every time.
Okay, good. That's good to know, yeah.
And
so you can use heat, so you do use obviously a little bit of heat and whatnot with the synthetic gray, and it's fine.
yes, I do. And I also start out with the system a little bit longer at first, disconnected. Usually the front of my system comes down to about the end of my nose or my top lip. And I do a real retros kind of 40s, you know, disconnected back like my grandfather did.
Oh,
you know?
nice.
Yeah. And so after about 3 weeks, I will trim a little bit off of it everywhere and go for another 2 or 3 weeks, and then I'll trim a little bit more, because just like your natural hair, the hair on these kind of gets split ends.
Yeah.
Particularly if I put heat on it. And caution here with the synthetic, I have put too much heat on it on occasion.
Okay.
And that's not a good thing, because then you kind of fry it.
Yeah.
And so you do have to be careful with that. But I'm going to try another natural gray unit again to see what my luck is with it, to see how it.
Yeah, I mean, you never know. You might enjoy it.
Yeah, I consider there's no such thing as natural beauty.
Everything's synthetic.
Yeah, everything comes out of a bottle.
There you go. How do you feel? Being a Hairsystem ambassador? Did you ever think something like this would happen?
Not in a million years. No, not in a million years. As a matter of fact, I still chuckle about it. It tickles me, and my family really laughs about it, you know, especially my grandchildren. They get online and read all these funny comments, and they're texting me, and they really are entertained by all of this. But you know what, I look at it, it's been a tremendous blessing to me. But the main thing is, goodness, it's an opportunity to be some help. And so that means a lot to me.
That's good. Last question. What advice would you give someone who is on the fence about wearing a hairpiece?
Well, I think it's such an individual thing to wear a hair system. First of all, it's the stigma. Sometimes it's associated. That's the hardest thing to get over. You know, people think you wear a wig, and so there has been a stigma. But I'm telling you today that that's kind of in the past, because there are so many men who wear hair systems that you don't know wear hair systems. I've had several come in to get haircuts, to get cut-ins that wear hair systems that no one knows they wear one. And so if you're on the fence about that, and some things that you would worry about is the expense, the time it takes. We talked about the learning curve. What are my friends? Because you know, you show up one day bald, you show up the next and you've got a full head of hair. So yeah, those people around you are going to know. But I think it involves this. Do you want hair? Do you really want to look better? And are you confident enough to do it? Are you afraid to do it? You know, are you feeling insecure about it? I would just say do it. And my experience was all those quote unquote, haters, all those that had something negative to say, the second they saw me was like, holy smoke. Like I said, astounded. And so I have not had one single person to say anything negative about it. I haven't had anything, I was going to say I've never had anyone to make fun of me about it, but I kind of like it when they do. You know, that sounds kind of weird, because that gives me an opportunity to kind of make fun of them, and we start playing a little game. It just simply doesn't bother me. Say what you want to, I don't care. I'm saying the proof is in the pudding. You know, you can have hair. And go on the website, look at my before pictures, and you will say like everybody else, hoo-hoo, good choice, Rick. So maybe that's you too. Maybe you just need to take the plunge, bite the bullet, get over what people might think or say. Who cares? Literally, who cares? You're going to feel better about it. All
right. Well, thank you very much for joining us. It has been like a blast. I can't say enough how much we've enjoyed having you here. And let's raise a glass. Here's to you. And of course, here's to me. Oops.
Cheers.